Country music may shine with rhinestones and glory on stage, but behind the spotlight were whispers Nashville never wanted fans to hear. Some rumors seemed too wild, too scandalous, or too heartbreaking to believe. Yet time has proven them true. From banned songs and bizarre addictions to near-death escapes, broken marriages, and secrets revealed in court, these stories expose the hidden reality of country legends. One Loretta Lynn, the song Nashville tried to silence. Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter, became one of country music's most important voices, singing about life, love, and struggle from a woman's perspective. But for decades, a rumor followed her career that Nashville repeatedly banned her songs from the radio for being too controversial. At first, fans thought this was just gossip meant to exaggerate her outlaw spirit. Yet, the truth is undeniable. In the 1970s, Loretta wrote and recorded The Pill, a bold anthem celebrating birth control and women's sexual freedom. Country radio stations across the South refused to play it, labeling it immoral and dangerous. Despite the bans, the song became one of her biggest hits, with women across America embracing its message. It wasn't the only time. Earlier, her song Rated X, which criticized the stigma placed on divorced women, was also banned from many stations. Even Don't Come Home a Drinkin', with Lovin' on Your Mind, raised eyebrows for its blunt portrayal of marital strife and male entitlement. Loretta never shied away from addressing taboo subjects, even when it cost her airtime. She later admitted that she expected pushback, but she refused to soften her truth. "I just sang life the way I saw it," she explained. The rumor was absolutely true. Nashville did try to silence Loretta Lynn's most daring songs. But in doing so, they only made her message louder. Her banned hits became part of her legend, proving that she wasn't just the voice of country women. She was their fearless champion. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 2, Jerry Reed không? 2. Jerry Reed, from rejection to Hollywood fame. Jerry Reed was one of country music's most electrifying performers, known for his fiery guitar playing and playful hits like Amos Moses and When You're Hot, You're Hot. But for years, a rumor lingered that before Hollywood came calling, Nashville didn't know what to do with him and even dismissed his style as too wild for traditional country. Many thought it was just gossip, but insiders confirmed it. In the early 1960s, Reed was a gifted session guitarist and songwriter, yet record executives didn't see him as a star. His blend of country, rock, and funk rhythms confused the industry gatekeepers who were used to safer, more polished acts. Some even advised him to stick to songwriting instead of pursuing a solo career. Then came Hollywood. In the 1970s, Reed's natural charisma landed him roles in hit films like Smokey and the Bandit alongside Burt Reynolds. Suddenly, the man Nashville had underestimated became a household name. Beloved not just for his music, but for his larger-than-life personality on screen. Ironically, the very style they once rejected became his signature. Reed later admitted in interviews that he had felt pigeonholed early on, but he turned the rejection into fuel, proving he could succeed in multiple arenas. Today, his fusion of picking brilliance and comedic flair is seen as ahead of its time. The rumor was true. Nashville once brushed Jerry Reed aside, but Hollywood's embrace turned him into a cross-genre legend, showing the world that his too wild style was exactly what made him unforgettable. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 3, George Jones không? 3. George Jones, the lawnmower ride for whiskey. George Jones, the possum, is remembered as one of country music's greatest voices, but also as one of its most self-destructive figures. Among the countless wild tales about him, one rumor stood out, that when his wife hid the car keys to stop him from buying alcohol, he drove to the liquor store on a riding lawnmower. Fans laughed it off as exaggerated barroom gossip. Surely no superstar would do something so ridiculous. Yet George himself later confirmed it in his autobiography, I Live to Tell It All. He admitted that during his marriage to Shirley Corley in the 1960s, his drinking was so out of control that she tried to lock him at home by hiding the keys to every vehicle. But she overlooked the lawnmower. Determined, George climbed onto the slow, sputtering machine and rode it all the way into town. Neighbors and locals watched in disbelief as one of country's biggest stars chugged down the road at a crawl, hell-bent on reaching a bottle of whiskey. The story became one of the most infamous anecdotes in country music history. retold by fans and comedians alike. Far from denying it, Jones leaned into the legend, often laughing at himself when asked about the incident. It became a symbol of both his self-destruction and his stubborn willpower. The rumor was true. George Jones really did ride a lawnmower for whiskey. It was tragic, absurd, and unforgettable, just like the man himself. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 4, Hank Williams Jr. không? 4. Hank Williams Jr., the fall that changed everything. Hank Williams Jr., son of the legendary Hank Williams, was already carving out his own identity in country music during the 1970s. But a chilling rumor followed him, that after a near-fatal mountain fall in 1975, he was left so disfigured he had to rebuild his face and reinvent his image. For years, some fans wondered if this was exaggerated tabloid talk. The truth, however, was even more dramatic. While hiking in Montana, Hank Jr. slipped and tumbled nearly 500 feet down Ajax Mountain. The fall crushed his skull, shattered his face, and left him clinging to life. Doctors performed multiple surgeries, rebuilding his face with steel plates and wires. When he returned to the stage, Hank Jr. looked different. Gone was the clean-cut image of a young man often compared to his father. Instead, he adopted his now iconic look: beard, long hair, dark sunglasses, and a wide-brimmed cowboy hat to cover the scars. What began as a necessity became his signature style. The accident also marked a turning point musically. No longer content to simply echo his father's legacy, Hank Jr. leaned into a harder Southern rock-infused sound, writing defiant anthems like Family Tradition and Whiskey Bent and Hellbound. The rumor was true. Hank Williams Jr. did rebuild his face and career after that fall. What could have ended his life instead gave birth to the outlaw persona that made him one of country's most enduring legends. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 5, Reba McEntire không? 5. Reba McEntire, the night she lost her band. Reba McEntire rose from Oklahoma rodeos to become one of country music's most powerful voices and most beloved stars. But a heartbreaking rumor has always followed her career: that she narrowly escaped death in a plane crash that killed nearly her entire band. Some thought the story was just exaggerated tragedy, but it was painfully true. On March 16, 1991, after a concert in San Diego, 2 planes were scheduled to carry Reba, her husband, and her band members to their next stop. Reba and her husband, Narvel Blackstock, decided to stay overnight, planning to fly out the next morning. Her band and tour manager boarded the first plane. That aircraft never made it. Shortly after takeoff, it struck the side of Otay Mountain, killing all 10 people on board. Reba was devastated. She later said in interviews that it was the darkest night of her life. And she poured her grief into the album For My Broken Heart, which became both a commercial triumph and a tribute to her lost friends. The rumor was absolutely true. Reba McEntire narrowly missed a tragedy that claimed the lives of those closest to her on the road. Instead of destroying her, the heartbreak deepened her artistry, giving her music even more emotional weight. Her survival became part of her legacy, not as gossip, but as a reminder that even country's strongest stars carry scars from unimaginable loss. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 6, Johnny Horton and Johnny Cash không? 6. Johnny Horton and Johnny Cash, a chilling premonition. Johnny Horton was a rising country star in the late 1950s, known for hits like The Battle of New Orleans and North to Alaska. But for years, a rumor lingered that Horton had a haunting premonition of his own death, one he confided to his close friend Johnny Cash. At first, fans assumed this was just myth-making after tragedy struck, but Johnny Cash himself later confirmed it. In his autobiography, Cash revealed that Horton often spoke about an uneasy feeling, a sense that something violent was waiting for him. He even told Cash that he believed he would die young and not peacefully. Tragically, Horton's fears came true. On November 5, 1960, after playing a show in Texas, he was killed in a car crash with a drunk driver. He was only 35 years old. Cash later wrote about how eerie it was to remember Horton's words. Knowing his friend had seemed almost resigned to a fate he couldn't escape. For fans, the story made Horton's death even more haunting. The rumor was true. Johnny Horton had sensed the end and shared that chilling intuition with Johnny Cash. It added a layer of mystery to his legacy, one of country's brightest young voices silenced, but not before voicing the premonition that would become part of his legend. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 7? Garth Brooks không? Garth Brooks, walking away at the top. Garth Brooks is the best-selling solo artist in U.S. history, bigger than many rock stars, and the man who turned country music into a stadium-filling phenomenon. But for years, a rumor swirled that he abruptly retired in 2001, not because of career burnout, but to save his marriage and become a full-time father. At first, fans speculated it was just a publicity stunt. How could the hottest star in country music simply walk away at his peak? Yet Brooks later admitted the rumor was true. After a high-profile divorce from his first wife, Sandy Mall, and the challenges of raising 3 daughters, he realized he was missing the most important part of life at home. So, he did the unthinkable. At the height of his fame, Brooks stepped away from touring, interviews, and recording, retreating to Oklahoma to focus on being a dad. He turned down multi-million-dollar offers and kept his promise to his children that he would be present until the youngest graduated high school. In 2014, more than a decade later, he returned to the stage, proving his hiatus had been genuine. By then, his personal life had healed. He had remarried Trisha Yearwood, and his daughters were grown. The rumor was true. Garth Brooks gave up global superstardom to be a father first. For many fans, it only elevated his legacy, showing that sometimes the greatest choice a legend can make is stepping out of the spotlight. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 8, Tanya Tucker không? 8. Tanya Tucker, a love story in flames. Tanya Tucker was barely a teenager when she shot to fame with Delta Dawn, becoming one of country music's youngest superstars. But as her career soared, a rumor followed her that her romance with Glenn Campbell was a whirlwind of passion, drugs, and violence, played out in public for the world to see. At first, many dismissed it as tabloid exaggeration. Tanya was more than 20 years younger than Campbell, and the idea of their relationship seemed shocking on its own. Yet both Tanya and Glenn later admitted the rumors were true. Their time together in the early 1980s was marked by fiery arguments, fueled by cocaine, alcohol, and clashing personalities. Paparazzi frequently caught them fighting, and headlines screamed about broken bottles, trashed hotel rooms, and bitter reconciliations. Tanya later described their relationship as volatile, while Glenn admitted it was destructive for them both. Still, neither denied the intensity. They were deeply in love, even as they were tearing each other apart. The affair ended in heartbreak, but its legacy lingered. Tanya carried the scars of those years, while Glenn openly confessed that his addictions had worsened everything. What began as country's most glamorous couple turned into a cautionary tale of fame, youth, and excess colliding. The rumor was true. Tanya Tucker and Glenn Campbell lived out a turbulent romance that burned as brightly as it burned out. For fans, it remains one of Nashville's most notorious love stories. Tragic, messy, and unforgettable. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 9, Willie Nelson không? 9. Willie Nelson, the IRS knocked on his door. Willie Nelson has always been seen as country's lovable outlaw, the man with braids, a guitar named Trigger, and a smile that could charm anyone. But one rumor chased him for years, that he owed the IRS millions in back taxes and had his assets seized by the government. Some fans thought it was exaggerated gossip, but in 1990, the shocking truth came out. Willie was hit with a staggering $16.7 million tax bill. The IRS claimed his accountants had used illegal tax shelters, leaving him with a debt so massive it nearly destroyed him. Agents swooped in, seizing his ranch, recording studio, and much of his property. Even Trigger, his beloved guitar, was at risk until a friend secretly hid it away to keep it safe. In true outlaw fashion, Willie didn't give up. He struck a deal with the IRS, agreeing to release a double album called The IRS Tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories? The profits from that record, combined with years of relentless touring, eventually helped him pay off the debt. The rumor was absolutely true. Willie Nelson was brought to his knees by the IRS, yet instead of ending his career, the ordeal only added to his legend. Fans rallied to support him, and Willie turned the scandal into another story of resilience. He wasn't just an outlaw in song. He was one in real life, even when it came to facing down the tax man. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 10, Conway Twitty không? 10. Conway Twitty. The battle over his legacy. Conway Twitty, with his silky voice and countless hits like Hello Darlin' and Tight Fittin' Jeans, was one of country music's most successful artists. But after his death in 1993, a troubling rumor spread that his estate became the subject of a bitter legal fight between his family and his business associates. At first, many thought this was just ugly gossip surrounding a superstar's passing. Yet court records later proved it true. Conway, who had built a small empire of businesses alongside his music career, had signed complex financial agreements that blurred the lines between his personal estate and his professional holdings. When he passed away unexpectedly from an aneurysm, his children were shocked to discover that much of what they assumed would stay in the family was contested. The Twitty heirs ended up battling with Conway's former management team in court. Millions of dollars were at stake, along with ownership rights to parts of his music and business ventures. The disputes dragged on for years, creating a cloud over his otherwise spotless reputation as a devoted father and family man. For fans, it was heartbreaking to see the man who sang so tenderly about love and loyalty caught up in a legacy of legal turmoil. The rumor was true. Conway Twitty's death left behind not just unforgettable music, but also one of country's most painful estate battles. It became a cautionary tale in Nashville, proof that even legends need to put their affairs in order or risk leaving their families to fight in the shadows of their success. Bạn có muốn mình tiếp tục với nhân vật số 11, Marty Stuart không? 11. Marty Stuart, The Marriage Nashville. Forgot, Marty Stuart is celebrated today as a guardian of country's traditions, a brilliant guitarist, songwriter, and historian of the genre. But one rumor that has followed him for decades is often whispered more than spoken, that before his long and happy marriage to country legend Connie Smith, he had once been briefly married to Johnny Cash's daughter, Cindy Cash. At first, many fans thought it was just idle gossip. Stewart's career had been closely tied to Johnny Cash since his teenage years, when he toured as part of Cash's band. But the whispers were true. In 1983, at just 24 years old, Marty married Cindy Cash, Johnny's daughter from his first marriage. The union didn't last long. Within a few years, the couple quietly divorced, and both moved on. Because it was short-lived and because Stewart was still early in his career, the marriage faded into the background, rarely mentioned in official biographies or interviews. Later, Stewart himself would acknowledge it, though he preferred to keep the details private. Years later, he found lasting love with Connie Smith, a country star he had admired since boyhood. Their marriage has endured far longer and become part of his public identity. Still, the rumor remains true. Marty Stuart was once part of Johnny Cash's family by marriage. It's a little-known chapter in country history, a hidden link between two eras of country royalty that most fans overlook. Như vậy là mình đã viết xong 11 tin đồn tiếp theo. Bạn có muốn mình viết thêm một đoạn kết outro 120 từ tiếng Anh để khép lại video này không?